Jiro was a spineless chicken who was bullied all his life by women and is now scared of touching them. However, everything changes when the most popular girl falls for his loser Riz and tries everything to clap him. Jiro's phobia of women started because of his sister, who'd beat him up every single day for fun. One of these days, he wakes up to her cracking his bones as usual. After getting years of trauma, he heads to school, praying that he never encounters women again. However, he sees a crowd of girls screaming and creaming for Subaru, the hottest guy in school, who is also a butler of an ugly trust fund baby. Seeing this, Jiro can't help but feel jealous because, unlike him, Subaru can be around women without passing out in fear. After carefully avoiding all female contact, Jiro finally reaches inside, but is then approached by a girl who tries to talk to him. However, this freaks Jiro out so bad that he runs to the toilet.
Come on, man.
But as soon as he opens the door, he finds Subaru in a thong, causing him to shut the door quickly. As he's processing what he saw, Subaru comes out and accuses him of being a peeping Tom. Jiro nervously tells him that he wasn't creeping on him, but Subaru doesn't buy it and unleashes his inner Saitama. Terrified for his life, Jiro runs and hides in the storage room, but it's all useless as Subaru quickly breaks the door down and finds him. Just then, Jiro notices a jar about to fall on Subaru and uses his own body to shield him, but as he feels his chest, Jiro realizes Subaru is a girl, and this gives him a nosebleed. As Subaru punches him away, she worries that Jiro will tell everyone her secret, so she uses a fire extinguisher to knock him out. Later, Jiro wakes up in the infirmary and finds himself in handcuffs with Subaru's mistress, Suzutsuki, sleeping next to him. As she wakes up, Jiro immediately asks her what in the 50 Shades of Grey is going on, and Suzutsuki tells Jiro that she's going to chop his family jewels as a punishment for learning Subaru's secret. Jiro begs Suzutsuki to at least tell him why Subaru is pretending to be a boy, so Suzutsuki reveals that men from Subaru's family have served her family for generations. But since Subaru was an only child, Suzutsuki's father, who was also the chairman of the school, only allowed Subaru to be her butler on the condition that she pretends to be a boy and no one finds out her true identity. After learning the truth, Jiro feels sorry for Subaru, and when Suzutsuki shows him a chained Subaru in the next bed, he begs her to let Subaru go. However, Suzutsuki tells Jiro she can't because Subaru wants to murder him for learning her secret, but Suzutsuki has other plans in mind. She then crawls on top of Jiro and starts getting freaky, which gives him nosebleeds. Seeing this, Suzutsuki realizes he is scared of girls, so she tells him that if he stays quiet about Subaru's secret, she'll help cure him. With his only other option being death, Jiro agrees to the deal, and Suzutsuki starts teasing him so much that he ends up fainting from all the nosebleeds. The next morning, Jiro wakes up at home and finds Subaru bathing in his bathroom, which nearly gives him a heart attack. When he asks why she's here, Subaru reveals that Suzutsuki has ordered her to watch him like a hawk from now on, which makes Jiro realize his life is about to become worse than Will Smith's life. At school, Jiro's friend, Yamato, asks him if he has been sword fighting with Subaru since they're always seen together now. Jiro just sighs, since he's the only one who knows that Subaru doesn't have a sword to begin with. Now, certain that his friend is dating Subaru, Yamato warns Jiro to be careful about his relationship with Subaru as the S4 might hire Charlie Kirk's assassin to yeet him. Since this is the first time he's hearing about S4, Jiro asks Yamato to give him more information. Yamato explains that S4 is a dedicated Subaru fan club that hates everyone who breathes the same air as Subaru since he is basically the Jungkook of Roarin' Academy. Later that day, Jiro is on his way to the toilet when he gets attacked by a girl wearing a clan mask. But before she can do any damage, she is taken out by another girl who reveals that she's from a different Subaru fan club that supports anyone who loves Subaru. Before Jiro can thank her, the girl bluntly asks him who's the bottom in their relationship. At that moment, Jiro realizes the girl is a die-hard yaoi fan and quickly makes his escape. To his misfortune, he stumbles across Suzutsuki, who gives him a fake apology for making his life harder. However, to make up for it, she hands Jiro a butler pass that can get him a free guac guac from Subaru. But Jiro crashes out and tells Suzutsuki that he's not going to do anything like that. After school, Jiro and Subaru stand in front of an arcade while Suzutsuki tells Jiro on the phone that he's going on a date with Subaru so his gynophobia can be cured and he'll finally stop being a bottom G. A few minutes later, Subaru changes her clothes and comes out in a dress, which makes Jiro blush as he asks Subaru why her mosquito bites are suddenly looking bigger. In response, Subaru shyly reveals that she stuffed tissues in her cups for this date. Once they head inside the arcade, Subaru is instantly fascinated by the crane machine. Seeing her reaction, Jiro quickly gets to work and wins her a stuffed toy, which makes her very happy. After playing more games, Subaru and Jiro decide to rest on a bench, where Subaru apologizes for having fun when she was supposed to help him cure his gynophobia. Jiro, however, assures her that it's fine, which prompts Subaru to ask why he is afraid of women in the first place. To answer her question, Jiro asks if she knows Akemi Sakamachi. When Subaru states that everyone knows about her as she's a famous pro wrestler, Jiro reveals that she happens to be his mother, and since she and his sister love martial arts so much, they would practice their terrifying moves on him, which made him so scared that his body started repelling women by giving him nosebleeds every time he was near one. At that moment, Subaru feels sorry for Jiro and assures him that she will help him. Feeling thankful, Jiro excitedly tells Subaru that he wants to get better soon since he's dying to crack some goth mommies. Suddenly, Subaru gets a call from Suzutsuki, who orders her to initiate phase 2 of the mission. On that cue, she walks towards Jiro and tries to riz him. Suzutsuki then orders Subaru to give the phone over to Jiro as she asks him if his nose is bleeding. When he tells her that he is fine for now, Suzutsuki urges him to use the Butler pass. But as Jiro shows the pass to Subaru, she becomes frightened and forces herself to call Jiro master. This makes him realize that the Butler pass is ultimate and he can really make Subaru give him a Mia Khalifa tier sloppy toppy. But in the end, he shrugs away his dirty thoughts and tells Subaru to bleat like a sheep. She reluctantly obeys and then tries to get revenge on Jiro by touching him. However, before Subaru can succeed, Jiro gets the kick of justice by none other than his sister, Kureha, who angrily reveals that she saw everything. Turns out, she had been tailing him and Subaru from the start, and she now believes that Subaru is a trap who dresses as a woman to seduce lonely virgins like Jiro. In her fit of anger, Kureha then tries to attack Subaru, who not only dodges her attacks but also kicks her so hard that she runs away crying. Now feeling guilty, Subaru apologizes to Jiro for hurting his sister, but he waves it off, stating that this is what Kureha should get for being an annoying labubu. That evening, when Jiro turns home, he finds his stuffed bear pinned on the wall with a knife as a warning by Kureha. The next day at school, they learn about a sudden health examination, which worries Jiro since he doesn't want Subaru's secret to come to light. As they arrive at the medical room, the nurse is about to take Subaru's chest measurements when Jiro quickly comes to her rescue and states that he will measure Subaru's chest since he is a shy guy.
Yeah, boy.
Once Subaru's measurements are taken, it's now Jiro's turn, who becomes worried for himself since he doesn't want the nurse touching him. As a result, Subaru offers to do his measurements. Unfortunately, their troubles are far from over as Subaru is called by the doctor to get her heart examined. Like before, Jiro announces that he'll do it and connects Subaru with his chest. The whole class gasps in shock while Jiro ends up fainting after feeling Subaru's cherries. When he wakes up, he realizes he has been napping on Subaru's thighs, who then tells him that she wants to thank him by having lunch together. However, when they return to the cafeteria, Jiro finds himself completely surrounded by the S4, who are out for his blood since they believe he felt Subaru's pecs. After arriving at the rooftop, Subaru tells Jiro that this is the first time she's having food with someone since she never had the chance to befriend anyone before. This makes Jiro realize that Subaru has lived a very isolated life, so he tries to help her out by urging her to call him by his first name. As Subaru does so, Jiro begins to blush when, suddenly, she falls asleep on his shoulder. That's when Suzutsuki appears out of nowhere and states that thanks to him, Subaru feels less anxious now. Confused, Jiro asks what she means by that, and Suzutsuki explains that hiding her true identity isn't easy for Subaru. She always has to be on guard, and therefore she's always anxious around everyone. After an eventful day, Jiro returns home when Kureha announces that, after receiving a bombastic kick from Subaru, she has fallen in love with him. The next day, Subaru comes to pick Jiro as usual, but then, Kureha comes out in her Hello Kitty undies and gets shocked upon seeing her crush. A few hours later, Jiro updates Suzutsuki on everything that happened, which makes her laugh out loud. She then tells Jiro that his sister is spying on them from the door. Realizing she has been caught, Kureha makes herself known and bluntly asks Jiro if Subaru felt excited after seeing her peach protector. But when Jiro tells her that Subaru didn't say anything, Kureha becomes heartbroken and wonders if it's because Subaru watches James Charles. This makes Suzutsuki laugh more, and she decides to add more fuel to the fire by telling Kureha that Subaru is in love with her brother, but she is the one who is dating Jiro. Knowing that her loser brother has a worse game than Annie Ender watchers, Kureha accuses Suzutsuki of lying, which prompts her to state that only Jiro's girlfriend would know about the birthmark on his chest. Now stunned, Kureha asks Suzutsuki how she managed to get close to Jiro, since he gets nosebleeds from chicks. In response, Suzutsuki casually tells her that they're both freaky and don't mind a little blood while getting naughty. Impressed by her maturity, Kureha instantly accepts her as her sister-in-law, which prompts Suzutsuki to offer her a chance to go on a double date with Subaru. Once the weekend arrives, Jiro and Kureha arrive at the swimming park, where Subaru welcomes Jiro with a stun gun. Startled by the weapon, Jiro asks why she's carrying it, and she reveals that she has to protect Suzutsuki as she'll definitely attract attention in her bikini. Later on, they head to the boys' changing area to get changed, which makes Jiro certain that the day is just going to be full of troubles. After wearing their swimming trunks, the two meet with Suzutsuki and Kureha, who have also changed into their swimwear. Seeing their bodies, Jiro sighs, realizing everyone in this anime has bee stings instead of golden globes. Meanwhile, Kureha seizes the opportunity and asks Subaru to teach her how to swim, which annoys Jiro since he knows his sister can swim. Before he can call cap on her, Suzutsuki tells Jiro to assist her, which allows Kureha to have alone time with Subaru. Now alone with Jiro, Suzutsuki tells him how, in the past, she and Subaru were kidnapped from the swimming park for ransom. However, the matter was resolved quickly as their kidnappers were apprehended, but this event had a terrible impact on Subaru, who blamed herself for being unable to protect her. From then on, the distance between her and Subaru grew further. On that note, Suzutsuki ends the conversation and grabs Jiro's arm, making him acknowledge the bounce effect on them things.
I'm gonna come. Oh.
After playing in the pool for a while, Kureha excitedly tells Suzutsuki that she has been trying extra hard to riz Subaru. However, Suzutsuki tells her that she still has a long way to go and orders Subaru and Jiro to fetch some juices for them. As they walk together, Subaru tells Jiro how she told her father about the incident that took place in the science room, and he was so disappointed because she didn't murder him. Before Jiro can accuse her father of being a maniac, Subaru spots a girl about to drown in the pool. Before she can rescue her, Jiro jumps into the pool and saves the girl, but then he starts bleeding from his nose. Luckily, her mother comes in time as Jiro ends up fainting from the closeness. While he's unconscious, Jiro dreams of his dying father, who had told him to become a man who can protect those around him. As he stirs awake, he wonders if he will be able to keep such a promise. Seeing that he is up, Subaru tells Jiro they should return to Suzutsuki since it has already gotten very late. But before they can do that, a boy hands Subaru a phone, and she receives a call from a kidnapper who reveals that he has kidnapped Kureha and Suzutsuki. As the kidnapper flashes a knife, Subaru panics and loses her footing, which tells Jiro that she is afraid of knives. Subaru then breathlessly reveals to Jiro that she developed a phobia of knives after being kidnapped. Feeling sorry for herself, Subaru states that she is a pathetic butler who can't protect her master. But as she leaves to save Suzutsuki, Jiro becomes determined to help her. So he stops Subaru and punches her in the gut, which quickly knocks her out. Once Subaru is out cold, Jiro hurries to the abandoned factory where the kidnapper is holding the girls hostage. However, upon arrival, he is immediately fed multiple knuckle sandwiches by the kidnapper. Yet despite all the beating, Jiro stays strong until the kidnapper's patience wears thin, and he takes out a knife to hurt Jiro. But before he can slime Jiro, Subaru arrives and assures him to relax since she is here now. Upon seeing Subaru, the kidnapper mocks her by reminding her how she used to be a weak little girl who was trembling in fear after seeing his knife. As Jiro hears this, he wonders if this is the same kidnapper who kidnapped Suzutsuki and Subaru before. Meanwhile, Subaru steels herself and tells the thug that she's no longer that weak girl. With that, she kicks the kidnapper so hard that it instantly knocks him out. Once the threat neutralized, Subaru rushes to Suzutsuki's side and apologizes to her for failing to protect her. However, Suzutsuki assures her that she saved her, therefore she must continue to serve her as not just her butler, but also her friend, until they both die. Suddenly, the kidnapper appears and begins clapping, which enrages Subaru, but before she can slime him, he peels off his costume and goes to hug Subaru. That's when Suzutsuki reveals to Jiro that the person who acted as her kidnapper is actually Subaru's father, Nagare, who is also a butler to her father. Before Jiro can say something, he ends up losing consciousness from all the beatings. When he wakes up, he finds himself in Suzutsuki's mansion with Nagare guarding him. Seeing that he's awake, Nagare bluntly tells him that he hates his guts, and Jiro fires back by stating that he hates him too. Before things can escalate, Suzutsuki enters the room and dismisses Nagare. Once he leaves, she tells Jiro that Nagare is quite overprotective of Subaru since her mother passed away when she was still very young. Since then, Nagare has protected Subaru and even refused to remarry as Subaru didn't want a new mommy. After that, Suzutsuki apologizes to Jiro for dragging him into this mess, revealing that she thought it would be best if Subaru could connect with another person who has phobias. With that, she apologizes again for faking the kidnapping and thanks Jiro for being a good friend to Subaru. As Suzutsuki leaves, Subaru enters and hugs him, revealing that she was scared of losing him. Just when the two share a moment together, Kureha arrives and accuses Jiro of cheating on Suzutsuki with a man. At that moment, Subaru learns that Jiro is dating Suzutsuki and becomes thirsty for his blood, prompting him to escape from the window. A couple of days later, Jiro enjoys a lazy day at his home and prepares to slurp some noodles when suddenly the doorbell rings. Upon opening the door, he finds Subaru in cat ears, who nervously tells him that if he lets her stay, she would give him a toe-tickling mouth hug. Just as Jiro is processing the whole thing, he receives a call from Suzutsuki, who reveals that Subaru was kicked out of the mansion the previous day and has nowhere to go. Curious about the details, Jiro asks why, but Suzutsuki tells him that he is better off without knowing the full truth. In the end, he gives up and lets an embarrassed Subaru in. Together, they enjoy some ramen when Subaru announces that she is not going to mooch off of him, so while she is staying with him, she is going to be his butler. Leaving no room for argument, Subaru tells Jiro that she would like to introduce herself to his parents, but Jiro informs her that his mom is overseas, his father is in heaven, and Kureha is in training camp. At that moment, Subaru realizes she is completely alone with Jiro and starts getting freaky ideas when he announces that he wants to sleep. Misunderstanding him, Subaru tells Jiro that she is not going to let him swipe her V card, which makes Jiro blush as he angrily clarifies that he's going to sleep alone.
Come on, man.
As Subaru eases up, she reminds Jiro that it's early in the day and he shouldn't be sleeping, but Jiro ignores her and states that he should get to laze around during his holiday. However, this only fuels Subaru further, who yells that, as his butler, she is going to beat the laziness out of him. A few minutes later, they arrive at Jiro's home dojo, where Subaru gives him a good workout. After getting all sweaty, she hands him the towel and reveals that she is going to do his laundry. But as she enters his bathroom, she starts wondering how his nasty underwears would smell, so she picks it up in her hand and is about to inhale them like it's fresh air when suddenly, Jiro walks in, causing her to freak out. Unaware of what's happening, Jiro nonchalantly tells Subaru that he's going in for a bath. A few minutes later, Subaru arrives in a towel and reveals that she is going to wash his back since she's his butler.
You know what time it is? Disco time!
But as she starts wiping his back, she ends up slipping and pushing her chest on his back, which gives Jiro a massive nosebleed. Just when he's reeling from the shock, he hears Kureha's voice, revealing that she got sent home early because she broke her arm fighting a bear.
No! God, please, no! No!
Meanwhile, Subaru starts to panic, while Kureha senses that something is off and asks Jiro why there are women's undergarments in the washer. Now equally worried, Jiro quickly locks the door, but that doesn't stop her from breaking down the door. However, when she spots Subaru in the bathtub, her brain goes dumb and her legs go numb. In the end, Kureha ends up fainting from all the shyness. When she later wakes up, she gushes about having Subaru over, insisting that she's going to have his triplets. Hearing this, Jiro coldly tells Kureha that no one's going to wife an ugly loser like her, which earns him a pinch from her. After shutting her annoying brother, Kureha prepares noodles for Subaru when, suddenly, Jiro recovers from the pain and shudders from the cold. All of a sudden, Suzutsuki appears in a maid outfit and reveals that she's going to be Jiro's maid for the day. But Jiro, who is exhausted by her shenanigans, takes her suitcase and tells Suzutsuki that she's going back to her mansion. This makes Suzutsuki unhappy, so Jiro tries to reason with her by saying that he already has a butler. Unfortunately, this only pushes Suzutsuki further as she challenges Subaru to a match on who'll be able to please Jiro and Kureha more. For round 1, Suzutsuki gives Kureha a good massage, which earns her point 1. Determined not to lose the next round, Subaru chews an apple and is about to spit it inside Jiro's mouth when he ends up fainting. Seeing this, Kureha panics and worries that her brother is going to die, but Suzutsuki assures her that it's just a common cold and leaves him under Subaru's care. Seeing that he's awake, Subaru tells Jiro that she prepared soup for him. However, when Jiro tries the spicy dog water, he ends up getting those Kylie Jenner lips from all the heat. From then on, Jiro suffers more than the prisoners of World War II as Subaru prepares different ways for him to sweat out his fever. While she's away, Suzutsuki comes to check up on Jiro, who confesses that the cold might not destroy him, but he'll surely get cancer from Subaru's treatment. Smirking wickedly, Suzutsuki tells Jiro that she'll help him out if he helps her first. A few minutes later, they knock on Nagare's tent, who immediately accuses Jiro of ruining everything. He reveals how lately, Subaru doesn't call him daddy and refuses to kiss him. When Jiro asks what that has to do with him, Suzutsuki reveals that ever since Nagare gave him a beating, Subaru has been ignoring him. In the end, her father got annoyed and told them to get lost until they fix their issues. That said, Suzutsuki urges Jiro and Nagare to solve their issues so Subaru can stop being angry at her father. Suddenly, Subaru arrives and kicks the daylights out of her pops for being near Jiro. She then turns towards Jiro and tries to drag him home, revealing that she wants him to recover fast, since, like Kureha, she is also afraid of losing someone precious to her. Yet to her dismay, Jiro loses his balance, which makes her cry as she wonders if she's going to lose Jiro like she lost her mother. Seeing this, Suzutsuki apologizes to Jiro, but he gathers his courage and urges Subaru to return to the mansion for everyone's sake. With that, he faints again in Subaru's arms. After a couple of days, Jiro regains his strength, and Subaru thanks him for convincing her to resolve her issues with her father. Later on, Suzutsuki tells Jiro that he was kind of cool that night and suddenly kisses him. But when he starts bleeding from his nose, Suzutsuki coldly tells Jiro that he's still a total chicken. The next day, Jiro makes his way to school when a girl crashes into him with her scooter. Since his glasses are thrown off, Jiro wonders if the girl is dead and edges closer to check up on her. However, seeing her bare thighs, Jiro wonders if he should diddle her the dead huz. All of a sudden, the girl wakes up and asks herself if she should call the police for hitting a person with her scooter, but then decides against it, since she knows what happens to pretty girls like her in jail. Upon hearing her monologue, Jiro tells her that he's alive and not deaf, which shocks the girl, who is certain that she had committed her first hit and run. When she asks Jiro if he's a human, he scoffs and tells the girl that, because of his family abuse, his body is just a lot tougher. Then, noticing the uniform of Roran Academy, Jiro asks the girl for her name, but she refuses to tell him. He accepts the rejection like a man, and then finds his glasses resting on the girl's thigh. However, she misunderstands Jiro and accuses him of being a man of culture. Before he has a chance to explain, the girl turns into Bruce Lee and starts kicking him where the sun doesn't shine. Luckily, his glasses slip off her thigh, which makes her realize that Jiro was just after his glasses. Once Jiro wears his glasses, the girl instantly recognizes him and only gets more violent with him, while asking him why Subaru would befriend an ugly loser like him. She then introduces herself as Yusami and gives Jiro such a hard kick that he loses consciousness. A few hours later, he wakes up and finds himself in the school's infirmary with Subaru next to him, who informs him that she found him lying on the street. When Jiro assures her that she doesn't need to worry about it, Subaru reveals that he was saying, "Mommy, break my bones" in his sleep. This shocks Jiro, who then realizes that he might have accidentally developed a freaky side thanks to all the abuse. Changing the subject, Subaru then asks him why he has been avoiding Suzutsuki. Jiro instantly recalls the lip lock he had with her and turns pale. Seeing his reaction, Subaru assures him that he can trust her with his worries since they're friends now. But before Jiro can say anything, Subaru shyly asks him to be with her during the school festival. Jiro assures her that they'll spend the day together, which makes her very happy. Once that's out of the way, Subaru gently urges Jiro to open up about what's bothering him. Just as Jiro starts talking about his first kiss, Subaru turns into Lord Tewksbury and starts acting all goofy while Jiro states that he'd like to have a do-over. Upon hearing this, Subaru closes the curtains and tells Jiro to kiss her quickly. Before things can turn into 50 Shades of Grey, Suzutsuki appears and coldly tells them to be careful since they're at school. Then, to punish Jiro, she climbs on him and gives him a nosebleed. Once Suzutsuki has teased him enough, she reveals that their class will be doing a cross-dressing cafe, which will allow Subaru to wear cute dresses. This makes her happy since Subaru has always wanted to dress femininely. Meanwhile, Suzutsuki randomly reveals that she got a love letter from someone and asks Jiro what she should do. When he nonchalantly tells her to go out with the bozo, Suzutsuki becomes upset and asks Subaru what she'd do if she found out someone kissed her without consent. Subaru murderously tells Suzutsuki that she'd cancel their life subscription, which sends shivers down Jiro's spine. Pleased by her response, Suzutsuki turns toward Jiro and whispers in his ear that she can kiss him again if he likes. But this time, Jiro begins to sweat nervously. Once the girls leave, Jiro angrily leaves the infirmary when he stumbles upon Yusami, who orders Jiro to follow her to the rooftop. Upon arriving, she bluntly tells him to go out with her until the school festival. Jiro turns to leave, which upsets Yusami, who asks why he's not interested in her. In response, Jiro tells her that he doesn't want to go out with someone whose kitty is probably saltier than the 7 seas. Now furious, Yusami states that he has no right to reject her and then reveals that she's in love with Subaru. Not only that, but she's also an officer of the S4. It then becomes clear to Jiro why she was so hostile towards him, while Yusami further confides in him about a secret event between S4 and the Subaru Boys Love Group. Jiro quickly connects the dots and realizes that if he goes out with Yusami, the Subaru Boys Love Group will be crushed since they want him to date Subaru. However, Jiro tells Yusami that he's not interested in her plans, which upsets her, and she starts blaming him for all the chaos, stating that if he didn't date Subaru, none of this would have happened. Jiro tries to tell her they're just friends, but Yusami pulls up receipts by showing him an image of him with Subaru in the arcade. When she further tells him that because of him, Subaru has started looking like a lover girl, Jiro becomes scared that everyone will find out that Subaru is, in fact, a girl. Suddenly, the door opens, and Subaru asks Jiro why he's hanging out with an ugly girl. However, upon seeing her, Yusami quickly hides behind Jiro and pushes him to tell Subaru they're dating or else she'll circulate their picture. In the end, Jiro submits and tells Subaru that he's going out with Yusami and won't be with her during the school festival. This upsets her so much that she punches him in the stomach and runs away. After school, Jiro goes shopping with Yusami since she doesn't have any friends. But during the clothing trial, Jiro accidentally falls inside the changing room and catches a glimpse of Yusami's twin peaks. After taking a beating, they head home, where Usami tells Jiro that since they'll be going out, they should have faith in each other. For the first time, Jiro agrees with her and tells Yusami that he'll place his trust in her, which relaxes her enough to give him the nickname of an idiot chicken. Finally, the day of the festival arrives, and Subaru dresses up as a girl, which makes all the girls squeal. However, deep down, Subaru remains upset since she's unable to hang out with Jiro. Meanwhile, he goes to meet Yusami, who orders him to take the lead in their date. But since Jiro has no idea how to behave around women, he pushes Yusami to be the man, which annoys her. So to make up to her, Jiro buys Yusami sweet balls. Suddenly, Yusami spots a girl cheerfully hanging out with her family, which makes her sad. She then tells Jiro that once the event is over, she'd like to treat him to her homemade cooking, which surprises Jiro. Now feeling embarrassed, Yusami raises the sweet balls so he can have a bite. But before he can have a taste, Subaru arrives and feeds him a spicy corn dog, which burns his mouth. Seeing Jiro withering in pain, Subaru angrily reveals that she will be keeping a close eye on him. She further reasons with him, saying that as his friend, she wants to make sure they don't fool around before marriage. As usual, Jiro suffers the most as both girls latch themselves around him, which upsets all the boys since he now has a twink and a mid-chick in his harem. Meanwhile, Yusami tries to fight for Jiro's attention, but Subaru doesn't let her. Out of annoyance, Yusami tells Subaru that she's acting like a pygmeisha when suddenly a mascot hands them an advertisement poster for an animal cafe. Subaru is instantly hooked on it, and Jiro quickly follows after her. After entering the animal cafe, they find out it's Kureha's class that came up with the theme. Upon seeing Yusami, Kureha becomes overjoyed and showers her senpai with a lot of love. However, Yusami pushes Kureha with annoyance, causing her to join Subaru. Observing this, Jiro asks Yusami if she hates Kureha, but she reveals that it's actually the opposite, as she is envious of her for having a loving family. Before Jiro can respond, Yusami angrily tells him to just go to Subaru since he's not having fun with her. Fed up with her nonsense, Jiro actually listens to her and joins Subaru and Kureha, leaving Yusami sulking behind. All of a sudden, the mascot returns and pushes Jiro out of the class. She introduces herself as Nakuru, revealing that she's the president of Subaru Boys Love Club, and shows him a yaoi manga featuring him and Subaru. Jiro quickly throws the manga and tells Nakuru to miss him with the fruity BS. After whining a little, Nakuru warns Jiro that he should run away since the showdown between S4 and her group can prove fatal for him. In response, Jiro assures her not to worry, but Nakuru insists that he should book a trip to North Korea, just in case, since he shouldn't trust Yusami. Just when Nakuru tells Jiro that Yusami is a fraud who can't control S4, she receives a bone-shattering kick from Yusami. With Nakuru out cold, Yusami admits to Jiro that she was lying from the start, and prepares to kick him too when Subaru arrives in time and sends Yusami running. Out of concern, Subaru asks Jiro what's happening, and he reveals the whole tea to her, which prompts her to come up with a plan. A few minutes later, they arrive at a shady building wearing the uniform of Subaru Boys Love Club. Shortly after, the host of the showdown enters the stage, and it shocks Subaru and Jiro when Suzutsuki reveals that she's the president of the S4. In this state of disbelief, Jiro ends up yelling at Suzutsuki, which gets them both in trouble as the S4 prepare to chop him to pieces. Before things escalate, Suzutsuki calms the crowd and tells everyone to prepare for the match. In the end, Subaru and Jiro decide to help the Subaru Boys Love Club since they're against violence. Seeing this, Suzutsuki announces that the winning group can do whatever they want to do with the losing group, which excites everyone further. The match begins as Suzutsuki starts asking questions regarding Subaru, which even she doesn't know. Meanwhile, S4, who has been obsessed about Subaru, quickly takes the lead. For her final question, Suzutsuki asks who Subaru's first kiss was. Since only Subaru knows the answer, Jiro begs her to out the person she kissed so they can win. Out of options, she reluctantly reveals that it was Jiro, which prompts Suzutsuki to play a clip from the pool where she softly placed a kiss on his lips while he was out cold. This upsets the S4, who demand Jiro's head on a platter. So, to save himself, he tells everyone that the person he's in love with is Suzutsuki, but she quickly rejects him, and the two manage to get off the stage unscathed. Meanwhile, Subaru is left feeling hurt and confused. On the other hand, Suzutsuki punishes Jiro for using her by pushing her udders on him. As Jiro recovers from the touch, he asks Suzutsuki if she has seen Yusami. She then reveals that Yusami resigned from S4 before the event began. Now concerned, Jiro runs to the rooftop, where he finds Yusami, who reveals that she fell in love with Subaru because he looked as lonely as she did. But then, he came, and everything changed, as Subaru suddenly had a friend while she was still lonely. In the end, she wondered if he could change her, too, but after spending time with him, she realized that the fault was in her. Yusami then concludes her story by telling Jiro that she no longer likes Subaru and, above all, she hates herself. As she turns to leave, Jiro grabs her hand and tells Yusami his own fear of gynophobia, which makes her laugh. Suddenly, Subaru arrives with Suzutsuki and tells Jiro that she knows the full truth now and thanks him for protecting her. As Yusami turns to leave, Jiro introduces her to everyone by revealing that she's his new friend. In return, Subaru takes Yusami's hand and states that a friend of Jiro is a friend of his too. Upon hearing this, Yusami becomes determined to change herself, and the next day, she tells Jiro that she's going to help him cure his gynophobia since they're now friends. A couple of days later, Jiro is about to enter his home when he is greeted by Subaru, who hands him some juice. As he gulps down the drink, she tells him that she'd like to elope with him. Before Jiro can respond, his head starts to get dizzy, and the last thing he hears is Subaru apologizing to him for following Suzutsuki's order, while muttering something about him smelling like a girl's perfume. A few hours later, Jiro wakes up and finds Suzutsuki next to him. He gets angry just by looking at her and demands an explanation when Suzutsuki reveals that they are at a hot spring inn. She further flexes how she rented the whole place, but when she asks Jiro if he's impressed, he bluntly tells her that he is more interested in knowing why he's here. That's when Suzutsuki reveals that she ran from home after having a disagreement with her parents about choosing a vacation spot. Ticked off, Jiro tells Suzutsuki that she's a spoiled brat, which upsets her so much that she shows her knockers to Jiro, which makes him state that she is absolutely right.
Yeah, boy.
Satisfied with herself, Suzutsuki then announces that they'll be training to cure his gynophobia, but Jiro has none of it and tells Suzutsuki to leave him alone in his room. In response, she casually reveals that they'll be sharing the room. Upon hearing this, Jiro becomes nauseated while Suzutsuki gets all close to him and tells him that she is going to be using his face as an IKEA chair. Suddenly, Subaru enters the room, revealing that breakfast is ready. Once Suzutsuki hops away, Subaru angrily asks Jiro if they were having a makeout session. Seeing her so furious, Jiro stammers that he would never kiss Suzutsuki, whose breath smells like fish. As Subaru eases up, Jiro tells her they should also get something to eat. On the way, they meet the innkeeper, who sympathetically tells Jiro that she heard from Suzutsuki how he had to elope with her in secrecy since Suzutsuki's parents were against their marriage because he's a broke bum. As Jiro hears this, he burns with anger and later complains to Subaru for participating in his kidnapping. At first, she feels sorry, but then her guilt turns into anger as she accuses him of keeping secrets. Once she walks away, Jiro is left in confusion and later joins Suzutsuki at the beach. As he scolds her for lying to the innkeeper, Subaru appears in her bikini, shocking Jiro, who instantly realizes his soldier is at attention. Seeing his reaction, Suzutsuki announces it's time to start his training and forces him to put sunblock on her body. As Jiro gets to work, Suzutsuki purposely makes happy dolphin noises, which makes Jiro so uncomfortable that his pecker goes into a coma. Meanwhile, Subaru feels left out and tells Jiro about how she's going to throw him in a hole, which makes him flee the scene. On his way to a juice bar, he bumps into a brat, which causes his glasses to get dirty. Now practically blind, he comes across a milk factory and instantly realizes from the color that it's Nakuru. Just when she's getting some screen time, Yusami smashes Nakuru's head with a plate and asks Jiro what he's doing at the beach. Before he can reply, Kureha arrives, and that's when he learns that they were all at a swimming camp but ended up meeting a shark, which separated them from their group. Since they were all broke and penniless, they decided to bartend for some money. Suddenly, Jiro gets a call from Subaru, who informs him that they're coming to join. However, knowing her secret will be unveiled if she shows up in the bikini, Jiro rushes out and urges Subaru to wear glasses so she doesn't get recognized by Kureha, Nakuru, and Yusami. To his dismay, Kureha instantly recognizes Subaru, but Suzutsuki intervenes and tells Kureha that the girl in front of her is Subaru's cousin Puniru. Once Kureha buys the lie, they rejoin the group when Yusami excuses herself and tells Jiro to follow her. Outside, Yusami sternly states that it's obvious Puniru is Subaru. Thinking that she has figured everything out, Jiro fears for the worst, but then Yusami states that she regrets having a crush on someone who loves to act like a trap. Suddenly, Suzutsuki arrives and spoils Yusami's mood, who asks her why she's around Jiro so much. In response, she reveals that Jiro is her fiancé and they did freaky stuff all night. However, Yusami refuses to believe that nonsense, asserting that she knows Jiro well since they were hanging out yesterday and even rubbed each other. Unfortunately, Subaru hears everything and runs away, heartbroken. Jiro quickly rushes after her and tells Subaru that she misunderstood everything. He admits that he went to Yusami's house, but it was only because she invited him to taste her cooking. However, Yusami also wanted him to taste what her mother made and tried to jump on his bone, but he ended up fainting. When he did come to his senses, he rushed out and met her. Before Jiro can say anything further, Subaru punches him in the gut for almost losing his V card. However, she eases up after knowing that Jiro and Yusami aren't going out. As they return to the group, they find Yusami begging Suzutsuki to let her stay in the same resort as them. Just when Suzutsuki accepts, Nagare arrives and announces that playtime is over as he wants her and Subaru to return to the mansion at once. However, Subaru retaliates by pretending not knowing her father and threatens to call the police on him, which ends up breaking his heart. The following night, Jiro is worried for his nuts as he finds himself surrounded by all the Hus. Suddenly, Nakuru pulls up the Butler pass and tells Jiro that she won this after the event that took place between the S4 and the Subaru Boys Love Club. After that, she hands the pass to Subaru and tells her to read a book she wrote. But as Subaru starts reading, she becomes embarrassed since it features her and Jiro clashing their big swords against each other. In the end, she throws the book from the window and tells Nakuru this is some Boku no Pico BS, causing her to jump after it. At midnight, Jiro looks around and realizes he is in Oppai heaven with bazookas all around him. Before he goes crazy, he heads to the hot spring for a soak, where he ends up meeting Subaru. Despite being embarrassed, Jiro tries to make small talk by saying that it's a relief that everyone thinks Puniru went home. Subaru agrees with him, saying she's sorry for all the trouble caused by her. Suddenly, they hear a man approaching and freeze in horror, realizing it's Nagare. Since he already hates Jiro's guts, Subaru quickly hides behind him before she can be seen by her pops. Meanwhile, Nagare makes a face seeing Jiro's ugly face and asks him bluntly what his relationship is with Subaru. When Jiro tells him they're just friends, Nagare relaxes a little, revealing that he thought his daughter was getting pipped by a loser, since she is always happy about going to school now. Once he leaves, Jiro and Subaru can relax. But then, Jiro tells Subaru that he can sense something else is cooking, since it's strange for Nagare to show up randomly. Before Subaru can say anything, Nagare returns with a set of piece protectors and asks Jiro why Subaru's undergarments are here. When Jiro tries to be slick with it, saying that he loves collecting peach protectors, Nagare gets furious. As he's about to deliver the kick of justice, Subaru pops up and kicks Nagare, which makes him lose consciousness. However, since her paper-built body is now on display, Subaru gets shy and kicks Jiro too. The next morning, Jiro and the girls sit to eat breakfast when Jiro tells Subaru that he can't remember anything that happened last night. Knowing her mind-erasing kick worked, Subaru quietly eats her food. Elsewhere, her hippie father is also confused as he wonders why he was sleeping outside the hot spring. Later in the noon, the gang goes to the beach to play volleyball, while all Jiro wants to do is play with Nakuru's double-decker meat cannons. After enjoying themselves at the beach, the squad rounds up again in their yukatas. This time, Subaru dresses as a girl and assumes the identity of Puniru as Suzutsuki informs the girls that she sent Subaru to run an errand for her. Suddenly, a fight breaks out between Yusami and Suzutsuki as they try to get more of Jiro, who is uninterested in both of the flat boards. Meanwhile, Nakuru and Kureha tell him about a pageant event, when suddenly, Jiro notices Subaru is absent. Concerned, he asks Suzutsuki where she is, but like always, she plays around and cryptically points at the mountains. Jiro quickly arrives at the location and finds Nagare, who tells him to stop bothering Subaru. However, he insists that he won't do no such thing since Subaru is his friend. Realizing that Jiro does care about his daughter, Nagare tells him that tomorrow is the day when Subaru's mother passed away, He also reveals that if Suzutsuki had gone overseas for her vacation, Subaru would have been compelled to accompany her. At that moment, Jiro realizes that Suzutsuki isn't a spoiled brat, but a caring friend who sacrificed her vacation to ensure Subaru can spend the day with her mother. Speaking of which, Suzutsuki arrives and dismisses Nagare. Once he is gone, she tells Jiro that there's something Subaru is keeping away from him and pushes him to find her. After a while, Jiro finds Subaru at a gravesite. Upon seeing him, Subaru shares with him how her late mother worried that she wouldn't make any friends, and she was right about it. In response, Jiro assures Subaru that it isn't her fault since she had to keep everyone at arm's length because of her secret. Subaru gets emotional upon being understood for the first time and tells Jiro that she didn't want her to see her like this. However, as she tries to push Jiro, he hugs her more tightly and tells Subaru that he is here for her now. As Subaru starts feeling better, she introduces him to her late mother, revealing that Jiro is her first friend. But by then, Jiro collapses from being too close to Subaru. When he wakes up, he finds himself at a medic tent with Kureha, who reveals to him that they'll soon be going to the beauty contest. She also adds that there will be a second event where the audience will compete with each other to get a kiss from the lady who wins the pageant. As they arrive at the location of the contest, Jiro is surprised to learn that Subaru has been selected as the winner of the beauty pageant. This fills him with fire as he makes up his mind to win the paintball game to get a kiss from her. However, during the game, Nakuru gets mad drunk and goes on a stripping spree. Before she can get her hands on Jiro's undies, Suzutsuki arrives in time. Since she knows Nakuru has a special respect for glasses, she grabs Jiro's and throws them in the water, causing her to go after them. With the coast clear, Suzutsuki tells Jiro that he looked cool for trying to kiss Subaru. But then, she neutralizes him by touching him with her bazooka. As Jiro faints, Suzutsuki takes the win for herself and successfully receives a kiss from Subaru. A few hours later, Jiro wakes up on Subaru's lap, who reveals the plushie she received from winning the contest. Suddenly, the fireworks decorate the sky. Subaru seizes this moment and tells Jiro that she wants to be more than friends. A few days later, Jiro finds himself working at a Maid cafe, since he needs that dough. Yusami arrives to check up on him and scolds him for not looking lively. She warns him that since she's the one who hooked him with this gig, he better perform well. Jiro mutters a quick thanks for helping him, and then asks why she sounded so panicked when he called her earlier. In response, Yusami shyly reveals that because she has never had friends before, she became nervous when he suddenly called her up. She also tells Jiro that he has her own customized phone ring, which makes him curious as he asks her if it's something like and tells Jiro that he shouldn't pay too much attention to silly things. Once she leaves, the hot manager shows up and asks Jiro if he is dating Yusami. He becomes shy and tells her they are just friends, which disappoints the boss babe. However, she quickly recovers and tells Jiro that she is glad Yusami has a friend, as she was afraid of her pulling a Hannah Baker. Now left alone, Jiro recalls how Subaru said she wanted to be more than friends, but then she quickly backtracked, leaving him all puzzled. Suddenly, the manager reappears and pushes Jiro to the dining area, where he is greeted by Suzutsuki. Seeing Yusami already seated, Jiro realizes whatever is coming isn't going to be fun. Once he is seated, Suzutsuki casually reveals that she was bored, so she decided to drop by. Yusami is already annoyed with her presence, but Suzutsuki pays no mind to her and tells Jiro how she is making Subaru run like a hamster in her mansion for her own fun. Jiro quickly comes to Subaru's defense and tells Suzutsuki to be nice to her, but she retorts by saying that he is always too nice to Subaru. Suddenly, Yusami angrily tells Suzutsuki to go home, since she is tired of seeing her hideous face. However, this only fuels Suzutsuki's desire to annoy Yusami, as she tells her to call her master and serve her food. Meanwhile, Subaru tries to find Suzutsuki but ends up getting recruited by a butler's cafe. Back inside the Maid cafe, Yusami angrily serves Suzutsuki some omelette, but Suzutsuki isn't done annoying Yusami as she forces her to feed the omelette to her. She then goes through the list of customers Yusami has served and is amazed by how popular she is with the lads. Finally, Suzutsuki announces she is going home, and Yusami practically pushes her out the door. Suddenly, Nakuru and Kureha appear before them, revealing that they are here for the part-time job. When Jiro looks at the girls in shock, Suzutsuki gives him a playful smile, making it known that it was she who told Nakuru and Kureha about the Maid cafe. Meanwhile, at the Butler cafe, Subaru quickly becomes everyone's boss and instructs them on different ways of satisfying their female customers. On the other hand, Suzutsuki decides to extend her visit and has a gaming session with Kureha. After crushing her in the game, Suzutsuki receives kisses from all the maids, while Jiro looks at her with annoyance. As he turns to leave, he stumbles and ends up grabbing Yusami's chesticles for support.
Yeah, boy.
Even before Yusami can kick him, Jiro faints from the impact. When he wakes up, the manager comes to check up on him and asks why he suddenly fainted. Before he can reply, Suzutsuki arrives and announces to everyone that Jiro has an extreme maid fetish. This shocks everyone, especially Kureha, who can't tolerate her brother being a man of culture and runs away in tears. Now left alone with Yusami, Jiro tries to assure her that he's not a creep, but she looks at him with suspicion. Suddenly, Suzutsuki pops up and lifts Yusami's skirt, revealing her knee-high socks.
Nice.
Seeing his freaked-out face, Yusami becomes sure that Jiro loves maids like Diddy loves baby oil. She even accuses him of gathering goon material during work hours, which scares all the maids as they suddenly feel afraid to work with Jiro. Then, out of nowhere, Suzutsuki proposes they all test Jiro's innocence by showing him their garter belts. Yusami is on the fence about the whole thing, but Suzutsuki manipulates her by saying that if she is Jiro's friend, she should help him prove his innocence. In the end, Yusami is forced to lift her skirt, while Jiro tries hard not to reveal that he actually loves maids and their garter belts. Fortunately for Jiro, Subaru arrives in time and saves him from fainting. As Suzutsuki turns to leave with Subaru, Jiro chases after her and asks if she is okay. Subaru smiles and tells him that she is fine, and then clarifies that when she said she wants to be more than friends, she hoped they could become best friends. Realizing that he misunderstood her, Jiro shyly tells Subaru that he is looking forward to being best friends with her. In response, Subaru shakes Jiro's hand, but for some reason, she looks at him sadly. With that, Subaru joins Suzutsuki while Jiro returns to the Maid Cafe. There, he is greeted by Yusami, who coldly tells him that she is glad he isn't attracted to maids. Jiro thanks her in response, insisting that he wouldn't have been able to prove his innocence without her. As he goes to change his uniform, Jiro tells Yusami that he is never setting foot in a maid cafe again. This upsets Yusami, who angrily tells Jiro that he should come every now and then. With that, she thanks him for being a true friend and runs away in embarrassment. Jiro is left stunned when he notices her phone on the floor. Seizing this opportunity, he checks her ringtone for his number and realizes it's a love song. Suddenly, Yusami appears and angrily chases after him for creeping up on her phone. A few days later, Suzutsuki and Subaru visit a couple of geeks when Suzutsuki forces them to develop a game for her. At first, they turn her down, which causes Suzutsuki to deploy her charms, which turn the weebs into her mega simps. After getting what she wants, Suzutsuki smiles at Subaru and says they are all set for tomorrow. The next day, Kureha excitedly comes to Jiro's room but is disappointed when she finds him sleeping. After leaving him a note, she hauls out. A couple of hours later, Jiro wakes up and finds the note by Kureha, informing him that she'll return in the evening. Meanwhile, at Yusami's place, Kureha thanks Nakuru and Yusami for throwing her a birthday party. As they sit to eat, Nakuru suddenly reveals how she heard some strange noises. That's when Yusami drops the bomb, revealing that she is roomies with a ghost. As she narrates the tale of a woman losing her life in her flat, Kureha cries out in horror, stating that the horror story she can tolerate is your love life. In response, Yusami assures Kureha that she doesn't need to worry since the spirits living with her are friendlier than Casper. To make everyone feel better, Nakuru announces that it's time to open presents. As Kureha unwraps her first gift, she finds a frame of glasses. Nakuru quickly tells her that the present is from her, since she wants to help her look less stupid. Kureha happily hugs Nakuru when Yusami reveals her handmade body pillow of Subaru. Seeing her present, Kureha jumps in excitement as she tells everyone that she's going to bed the pillow all day and night. All of a sudden, Nakuru announces that it's time for Kureha's second present, which makes Yusami nervous. A few seconds later, Nakuru dresses as Jiro, while Yusami is forced to dress as Subaru. Kureha takes a seat as Nakuru starts doing fruity things to Yusami, who puts up with it since she doesn't want to spoil Kureha's birthday. However, when Nakuru tries to steal her first kiss, Yusami has enough and throws her off. Composing herself, Nakuru then tells Kureha that it's time for her third present, for which they arrive at the Maid Cafe where they are greeted by Suzutsuki and Subaru. Kureha is instantly excited to see them since she wasn't sure they knew her birthday. When Yusami looks at Suzutsuki and Subaru in confusion, her manager arrives, revealing that Suzutsuki booked the whole cafe for Kureha's birthday. With that, she hands Yusami her uniform, insisting that she wears it for the day. Once everything is ready, Subaru hands Kureha a plushie and joins the maids to sing her a happy birthday song. After that, Kureha thanks everyone but then suddenly goes quiet. When the girls ask her why she looks so glum, Kureha reveals that back then, Jiro would spend all his allowance to buy her presents but now, he doesn't seem to care. Before Kureha's mood is ruined, Suzutsuki shows her to the customized video game she made for her, which quickly makes her forget her sadness. After a hardcore gaming session, Kureha rides in Suzutsuki's limo, where she thanks her and Subaru for making her birthday so memorable. As they pass by a park, Kureha shares with them how during one of her birthdays, she had a fight with her mother and ran from home. But Jiro didn't leave her alone and quickly came after her. When Suzutsuki compliments Jiro for being a good brother, Kureha eagerly reveals how Jiro used to make her birthdays special up until last year, when he suddenly stopped caring. She tells them how he even abandoned her and went to a concert. When he came back, she was so furious with him that she ripped apart his merch and wrote "stupid" all over his body. Feeling sorry for Kureha, Suzutsuki suddenly tells her that she can just quit being Jiro's sister and become her sister, starting from today. As always, Subaru becomes the voice of reason and tells Suzutsuki that Jiro must have accidentally forgotten Kureha's birthday. However, Suzutsuki bluntly counters that if she thinks Jiro is so nice, then she can become his sister. Before Kureha learns the truth, Subaru quickly corrects Suzutsuki, stating that she'd be Jiro's brother, not sister. Meanwhile, Kureha recalls all the events where Jiro showed up for her, in place of their mother. All of a sudden, she is filled with a lot of love for her brother and tells Subaru and Suzutsuki how Jiro has cared for her like a parent. And now that she has grown into an adult, it is about time she stops clinging to her older brother. After dropping her off, Kureha thanks them and heads in while Suzutsuki wonders aloud if Jiro remembered her birthday this year. In response, Subaru says with full faith in Jiro that this year, he wouldn't disappoint Kureha. Meanwhile, Kureha tries to find Jiro when she comes across a huge gift box. A few seconds later, Jiro arrives and wishes her a happy birthday, which makes her so happy that she starts jumping around. Upon opening the present, Kureha is delighted to find a huge plushie. Meanwhile, Jiro watches his sister dance around happily and recalls how he made her sad last year. It was then that he vowed to himself to never make Kureha sad again. When he tells her sorry, Kureha smiles and says that she feels like clinging to him again. On that note, she hugs Jiro, who is just about to hug her back when he suddenly gets treated like a 90s wife, as Kureha throws him around, while saying that she loves him a lot. Meanwhile, in her apartment, Yusami inserts the video game that she received from Suzutsuki. Despite being skeptical about it, she plays the game and immediately realizes that, as always, Suzutsuki has pranked her by making her look like a stupid rabbit in the game while making herself look like an angel. With summer vacations over, Subaru mans up for the second semester, when suddenly Suzutsuki arrives and helps her hide her pancakes with bandages. Noticing her glum face, she asks Subaru if something is bothering her, but when Suzutsuki only gets silence in response, she asks Subaru if this has something to do with her relationship with Jiro. In return, Subaru looks at her shocked, which tells Suzutsuki all she wanted to know, as she advises Subaru to come to her if she has any problem. Once she is left alone, Subaru goes ham on the boxing bag, hoping to release some tension. Meanwhile, Kureha throws and kicks Jiro around, as she makes sure that her ugly brother is unable to reproduce more incels that look like him. Once she is satisfied, she allows Jiro to leave, who is then greeted by Subaru. Upon seeing her, he asks her if she still thinks that he would out her secret. Subaru meekly tells Jiro that while she trusts him as his best friend, she continues to follow him because she hasn't been able to cure his gynophobia. As Jiro eases up, he consoles Subaru by saying that if it was so easy to cure his gynophobia, he would have already lost his V-card to the freaky MILF in his area. In response to that, Subaru tells Jiro that they need to train harder so he can finally achieve his dream of running through the baddies like he's a National Football League player. Just as they're having this conversation, Yusami shows up on her scooter like a death sentence, but before she can pound Jiro, Subaru quickly throws him safely on the ground. As they lie on top of each other, Subaru blushes and confesses to Jiro that she was thinking about the moment she kissed him. Before the plot can develop between the two, Yusami angrily asks them if they're trying to clash their swords together, early in the morning. Jiro flies in a rage and tells Yusami they're in this position because of her. Ignoring him, Yusami gently asks Subaru if he's okay, which upsets Jiro, who asks why she is treating Subaru better than him. A few hours later, Jiro has lunch with Subaru and Suzutsuki, who serves them both her homemade curry. Jiro takes a bite and is amazed by the taste, while Suzutsuki reveals that she made this with her special white cream. Then out of nowhere, Subaru starts stripping off her clothes, which shocks Jiro, who asks Suzutsuki what's going on. In response, Suzutsuki tells Jiro that she added a drop of wine in the food, which is making Subaru woozy. Jiro reminds Suzutsuki that, in a normal anime, she'd be jailed for drugging Subaru. So she retaliates by putting some sauce on his neck and urges Subaru to lick it up. Subaru, being an obedient slave, quickly gets licking, which gives Jiro a nosebleed. Out of desperation, Jiro reminds Subaru they are best friends, and best friends don't lick each other's neck, but this only infuriates Subaru further as she angrily bites down his neck. She then tries to tell him something but suddenly falls unconscious. Meanwhile, Suzutsuki gets upset watching Subaru and Jiro together, but as always, masks her emotions and urges Jiro to take Subaru to an infirmary. On the way to the clinic, Jiro has multiple nosebleeds while carrying Subaru on his back. Returning to his class, he informs Suzutsuki that Subaru is sleeping soundly in the infirmary when she suddenly starts meowing. Jiro looks at Suzutsuki with a confused heart-on when suddenly the whole class picks up on the meowing. Before Suzutsuki can get embarrassed, Jiro tells everyone that he was practicing meowing since he wants to riz a Discord mod. Suddenly, Suzutsuki drags Jiro out of the class and reveals that she has a weakness that she has hidden from everyone. Jiro looks at her curiously as Suzutsuki states the meowing he heard was actually her hiccups. Upon learning this useless information, Jiro asks Suzutsuki how that is supposed to be her weakness, and she bluntly says that her hiccups make her look extra cute. In response, Jiro tells Suzutsuki that she sure knows how to toot her own horn when she begs him to help her stop the hiccups. Suddenly, Subaru wakes up and tells Jiro that Suzutsuki isn't lying. Her hiccups are so cute that oftentimes men end up creaming after hearing it. Jiro is unamused and thinks the whole thing is really stupid. All of a sudden, Subaru gets all cuddly with Suzutsuki, which surprises Jiro since he has never seen her lose composure before. When he tries to ask Subaru if she is okay, she gets all angry and accuses him of trying to steal Suzutsuki. Suzutsuki tells Subaru to fetch her the hiccup stopping tool. As the butler reluctantly leaves, Suzutsuki quickly throws Jiro on the bed and tries to ask why Subaru's behavior has changed towards him. Before Suzutsuki can diddle him like his uncle, Jiro angrily throws her off and runs away.
Why are you running?
On the way, he bumps into Subaru. Still reeling from the collision, Subaru suddenly notices Jiro's unbuttoned uniform and Suzutsuki's revealed cleavage and becomes sad. As the trio head back to class, Suzutsuki's foot twists and she ends up falling down the stairs. Despite Subaru's own attempt of rescuing Suzutsuki, she ends up getting her ankle sprained. When they arrive at the hospital, Jiro is stunned to learn that Suzutsuki's parents also own their own medical center. Meanwhile, Subaru apologizes profusely to Suzutsuki, who assures her that it's no biggie. Subaru feels burdened by her mistake and heads to the rooftop. Jiro follows after her and tries to console Subaru, who suddenly bursts into tears and embraces him for comfort. Suddenly, Nagare arrives, cracking his knuckles as he tells Jiro that he is going to break all his bones for hugging his daughter. Upon seeing her dad, Subaru tells Nagare how Suzutsuki got hurt on her watch. That's when he flatly tells Subaru that she has been fired from her role as Suzutsuki's butler. As Jiro tries to argue, Nagare shuts him off by saying that he isn't the one who made the decision. Suddenly, Suzutsuki arrives and sternly tells Nagare that she will convince her father to not fire Subaru. However, Nagare counters that this is a golden opportunity for Subaru to live like a normal girl. Suzutsuki ignores him and turns to call her father when Subaru stops her and says that she's thankful for all the years that she got to serve her. With that, she runs away while Suzutsuki begs Jiro to follow her. After running to a bridge, Jiro begs Subaru to stop, since he can't run as fast as your father did when you were born. In response, Subaru tells Jiro that he doesn't need to protect her secret anymore and kisses him. As Jiro's nose starts to bleed and his vision goes blur, the last thing he sees is Subaru running further and further away from him. A few hours later, Jiro is woken up by Yusami, who reveals that it was Suzutsuki who sent her to check up on him. Instead of talking to her, Jiro stands up, hoping to find Subaru as quickly as possible. Unfortunately for him, Yusami gives him a ride, and on the way, Jiro ends up clutching her twin towers because of her bad driving. When they arrive at the destination, Jiro tells Yusami that her driving might be bad but her tatas sure are 10 on 10. Ignoring his remark, Yusami pleads with him to bring Subaru safe and sound, and he assures her not to worry. After saying goodbye to her, Jiro makes his way through the very mountains where Subaru told him that she wants to be more than friends. A few minutes later, he finds her sitting on the bench. Upon noticing him, Subaru asks what he is doing here while Jiro tells him that it's time to go home since everyone is worried about him. In response, Subaru sadly reveals that if she does go back, she won't belong anywhere since she is no longer a butler. However, Jiro consoles her by saying that she will always belong in his world since they are best friends. Now feeling slightly better, Subaru tells Jiro that she doesn't want to go home tonight. As they check inside the inn, Jiro phones Suzutsuki to inform her that Subaru is safe with him. In return, she teases him by saying that if he didn't have gynophobia, he could have cracked open Subaru. This ticks off Nagari, who yells through the phone that if her daughter comes back with a deflated belly, Jiro will lose his sausage. Later on, they have dinner together while the innkeeper sets their mattress in the same room. At night, Jiro is unable to forget Suzutsuki's words as he wonders if he would have been able to develop a plot with Subaru if he didn't have the stupid gynophobia. Suddenly, Subaru asks Jiro if he wants to get freaky with her. Upon hearing this, Jiro's PP starts breakdancing in excitement as he imagines giving Subaru his special Jiro sauce. However, he quickly turns his back and announces he is going to bed.
Come on, man.
This makes Subaru a little self-conscious as she asks Jiro if he doesn't find her attractive. He quickly assures her that while he finds her hot, he wants to give her backshots only when they love each other. At that moment, Subaru realizes Jiro's a green flag and rewards him by big spooning him. Unfortunately, this excites him to the point that he changes his mind and asks Subaru for a one-night stand, which earns him a kick. The next morning, Suzutsuki and Nagara arrive to pick up Subaru. But before that, Nagara angrily asks Jiro if he and Subaru had the no-pants dance last night. When he assures him that nothing happened, Suzutsuki gets disappointed, claiming that he had the golden opportunity of clapping cheeks. The next day at school, everyone finds out that Subaru has transferred school because he was fired from his job as Suzutsuki's butler. In the meantime, Jiro tries to get more information out of Suzutsuki when he is greeted by Subaru in a girl's uniform. Since Kureha and Nakuru still think that it's Puniru, they excitedly welcome her to Roran Academy. Realizing he looks like a background character, Jiro quickly takes action by asking Subaru for lunch. This shocks everyone since Jiro has a reputation of being a chicken. Meanwhile, Subaru runs away in embarrassment. Jiro waits for Subaru to show up on the rooftop. As they get talking, Jiro inquires Subaru if she is enjoying life as a girl, but she admits to him that she feels purposeless now that she isn't serving Suzutsuki. Upon hearing this, Jiro becomes determined to help his best friend, so without any delay, he goes to meet the S4 who attack him on sight. After deflecting all their punches and kicks, Jiro bows in front of them and begs them to join forces with him, so he can bring back Subaru. A couple of hours later, Subaru is shocked to find the entire academy signing petitions for her to come back as Suzutsuki's butler. By the day's end, Suzutsuki gathers a stack of petitions, revealing that she'd show this to her father who will reinstate Subaru back as her butler. The next day, Jiro and the Subaru simps are delighted to see her, serving Suzutsuki as usual. That night, Jiro gets a text from Subaru to meet her in the park. When he sees her dressed in a cute dress, Jiro's dong stands up for duty. Subaru then tells him that she called to thank him for helping her out. With that, she asks Jiro to close his eyes so she can reward with. However, when she starts getting nervous, Suzutsuki pops out and warns Subaru that if she doesn't kiss Jiro, she will. Subaru gets the push that she needed and smashes her lips against Jiro, who ends up fainting, as always. A few days later, Subaru and Yamato discuss about the power of glasses on busty babes when he suddenly finds a fruity magazine in his collection of Playboys. Before he can study it further, his doorbell suddenly starts to ring. Upon opening the door, he is greeted by Nakuru, who reveals to him that she is in a pickle. Since he wants to quickly return to his goon session with his buddy, Jiro tries to send Nakuru away until she reveals that the problem concerns Subaru. Since he deeply cares about her, Jiro tells Nakuru to quickly tell him what happened. She then tells Jiro that it all started when Subaru caught her taking a picture of him during his bath time. Naturally, this annoyed Subaru, who forced her to give up the picture that she had taken. Since she felt guilty, she quickly hands the picture, revealing how it was a bad angle as his body was covered with steam. She also tells Subaru that the reason she creeped on him was because she wanted to make money by selling his naughty pictures. When Suzutsuki hears this, she happily gives Nakuru some candids which end up selling super fast. Despite making enough money to sell her fruity mangas, Nakuru calls Kureha and Yusami to help her sort out all the pages. All of a sudden, gets a wicked idea and tells Kureha that she'll give her premium pictures of Subaru if she helps her install a camera in her brother's room. Kureha is instantly sold and lets Nakuru plant a camera and a boys' love magazine in Jiro's room. Once that's out of the way, she calls Subaru and Suzutsuki to help her bind the manga. After getting the job done, she reveals that she's all set for tomorrow's event where all the aspiring manga writers are gathered. Then turning towards Subaru, Nakuru tries to tell him something but ends up chickening out. However, now that Kureha and Yusami are all curious, they decide to stalk Nakuru until they find out her secret. Unfortunately, they are quickly caught by Nakuru, who asks them why they're tailing her. Since there was no point in lying, Yusami and Kureha tell Nakuru they're worried about her being in trouble. Realizing the girls care for her, Nakuru nervously asks them what they think about her bazookas. At first, the girls are pissed since their chests look like bee stings. However, when they realize Nakuru is actually self-conscious, they urge her to get a man's opinion since they are usually the band anchor's expert, which finally brings Nakuru to Jiro's doorsteps, who is still trying to make sense of why she put a camera and a fruity magazine in his room. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Nakuru asks him to go on a date with her. That evening, Jiro finds himself on a date with Nakuru and her jiggly jugs. As they spend some quality time together, Nakuru asks Jiro what he thinks about her milk cannons. Knowing it's best to remain silent on the subject, Jiro gives Nakuru a fed-up expression, and she finally breaks down and tells him that she got confessed to by a boy in her class. However, since she knows that boys usually don't go for girls who promote clash of dongs between boys, she wondered if the boy proposed to her because of her jugs. Before Jiro can say anything, Nakuru shocks him by asking him to massage her tatas, so they can shrink down and she can work on her mangas in peace. Jiro is flabbergasted after hearing her wild request, but then tells her that it's true that her honkers are bigger than Naruto's love for Sasuke. But he is also sure that the boy who confessed to her liked her for more than her milk factory. Nakuru feels happy to hear that and hugs Jiro, which gets him all 30. So before he can sin, he pushes her away, which causes her glasses to fall off. As Jiro sees Nakuru's face for the first time, he is completely rizzed by her bare face. Similarly, Nakuru's heart starts beating fast as she suddenly finds Jiro hot. Feeling shy, she suddenly runs off while Jiro chases after her so he can see those melons bounce away. Do you think Nakuru's melons are dope? Comment stars and like and subscribe for more.